Welcome to the presentation and thought exchange of why words are prisons and highly paradoxical in their essence. The philosopher Michel Foucault was born in 1926 in France. He is known for developing the discourse theory. Among others, he was influenced by Nietzsche, Kant, and Heidegger. Foucault developed the concept of discourses as practices that systematically form the objects of which they speak. Accordingly, a discourse is a system which produces knowledges and truths, which is self-reproducing and which has social and cultural power. Discourses create the concepts through which we understand the world, but they do not reflect objective reality. Rather, they express the interests and power relations of society and are thus systems of social order. According to Foucault, discourses must produce differences or dualities that are expressed in categories so that they can function as the mentioned mean of social order. For Foucault, the world is thus ordered and restricted by discourses. Discourses create oppositional structures, dualities, and differences. For example, us, them, good, bad, true, false, right or wrong. Also, the sexual discourse can be viewed according to this theory. The sexual discourse arises from underlying as objective recognized knowledge, which in turn justifies and legitimizes the categories male and female in biological or social gender. These linguistic categories can then be assigned to subjects, so to humans. In this way, a norm construct, a regulation process is formed, and people are named as woman and man, through the discourse of binary gender. The discourse theoretical deconstructivism, for example, takes into account not only the respective practice of a discourse itself, but also what is excluded from this specific practice. This allows discourses and their underlying concept and categories to be analyzed and criticized as linguistic and cultural inventions. In this way, what is excluded can be named and thus brought into the discourse. If we look at language from this viewpoint, words can never depict a universal or objective truth. Language or words themselves develop the categories or dualisms we humans then consider as true. Truth is a product of power and upheld by discourses. As Ludwig Wittgenstein wrote in his writings Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus, the limits of my language mean the limits of my world. The influence of words as a product of power can be seen in the subject-object relationship. Objects do not only have physical or functional properties, but they also have profound mental meanings. Thus, they do not only change the external life of the subject human, but also their inner world of thought, inner behavior, and inner value system. An example is the construct of gender. Already objects are given a gender. The discourses and constructs are interactive and take place in daily life. Linguistic expressions of color, shape, functions, and materials are all developed by humans and shaped by discourses, in this example, gender. The rigidity and lifelessness of words can be seen by the difficulty of rethinking and shifting of values regarding discourses and, in this case, of gender perceptions. If only a human, a subject, individually rethinks gender perception, it cannot be considered sufficient for a deconstruction of gender constructs or discourses. Since objects themselves carry and produce these discourses and perceptions in humans. So, if a man wears a pink dress, he as a subject cannot simply transform the codes given to the dress by his own thought process of, for example, gender fluid fashion. The object, pink dress, will always also construct the subject human. Objects thus not only materialize culture, but they also create culture. Summarized, it can be said that objects are not a neutral objective tool or independently existing units in life. They reproduce discourses and thus not only express culture, but produce culture due to the cultural and historical value they received during the years. Humans created structures, discourses, such as knowledge frameworks, social norms, morality, and coding of objects, created to organize and understand the world, that now set boundaries for humans themselves, by restricting the freedom and expression by shaping behavior, identity, or thoughts. The designers Christensen and Conradi call this process the imprisoning of ourselves by ourselves. As Foucault said, in The Will to Knowledge, knowledge is not neutral, it is a construct of power. As well he mentioned, in The Order of Discourse, that every society has its own order of truth. Words create language, create philosophy, create religion, create knowledge, create logics, create politics. All these areas are not created, grounded on an objective base, but by discursive practices, which have been shaped by cultural, social, and historical contexts, and are thus instruments of power. We can say that words are used to construct our world, but they can never depict our world truly and objectively. According to this theory, and finally the thought, that in words and everything that is constructed out of words, there is no such thing as ultimate truth and no such thing as absolute from social, cultural, and historical discourses detached categories, such as good and bad, true and false, or right and wrong. For sources and further food of thought, please take a look at the info box. Thanks for watching and goodbye.